Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Today is our weekly Wednesday politics episode, and we're looking into getting Philadelphians more civically engaged and making our political system work better. Is it term limits, abolishing the sheriff's office, ending judicial elections? I sat down with Lauren Cristella, president and CEO of the nonprofit governmental watchdog Committee of 70, to find out how this group says it wants to make Philly politics less corrupt. It's Wednesday, August 6th. I'm Trina Nuri, and we're talking politics. Committee of 70 was created in 1904 to combat corruption in Philly. Is Philly less corrupt than it was back then?
So I don't think it's a matter of just more or less corrupt. Committee of 70 was started by a group of business leaders who said the amount of corruption in Philadelphia was bad for business, and they wanted to do something about that. And they got together, and we've been in operation for over 120 years. And I don't know that there's ever a time where we're going to say, you know what, job done, mission accomplished, we're all good. I wish we could, right? That should be the goal of every nonprofit, right? To achieve their mission and be able to pack up shop. But the price of democracy is eternal vigilance, right? And I think while we have made vast improvements, and there's some things that we absolutely can say we've solved that issue, we've solved that problem, less bad is not good enough, right?
Right, because corruption isn't just about politicians taking bribes or stealing public money. It's also the way our system works.
Right. It could be just like waste and mismanagement and abuse of the system, you know?
Lauren, we just had the primary election for several different seats, one including judges. But a lot of people didn't know these judges, these candidates. How are we supposed to know if those candidates are going to do a good job?
Judicial elections are so hard, right? There's so many restrictions on candidates for judge because they really can't talk about cases that are going to potentially come up before them. Right. So they're really limited in what they can talk about. They really can't fundraise in the same way. So a typical campaign event doesn't look the same for a candidate for judge. We're actually close partners with Pennsylvanians for Modern Courts in advocating for the merit-based selection of judges. This is one of those areas where we actually don't think judges should be elected. We think that there could be a way to have judges appointed that would be a more fair system. And of course, it really matters who's appointing those judges, right? We can see that could also run amok if you have really partisan appointments of judges or something like that. So it matters who's picking the judges too. But that leads to a lot of problems. I was on the Judicial Commission. So the Philadelphia Bar Association has a large group of people, a lot of lawyers and judges, current and former. They have teams of people who do investigations into the candidates. Mm-hmm. And so all you see on the public side are those recommendations, right? And we really encourage people to look at those. Those are phenomenal ways to get informed about who you should select for judge, right, when you're voting. So that's, highly recommended, or not recommended. That's all you see. But as a member of the commission, I know that over 28 interviews have been conducted into each one of those candidates, right? And those are people that the candidate has offered up to us, but they're also, opposing counsel, judges that the lawyers have appeared before. They go into their financial records. They've just done a ton of research and investigations into their backgrounds. And those recommendations come with a lot of weight, I will say. So take those very seriously. In our own voter guide at the Committee of 70 ballot.70.org, we put those really prominently on the judicial candidates' profiles. So that's a good place to start when trying to get informed about who to vote for judge.
You all provide tools for Philadelphians like your How Philly Works guide to city government. How could the work that you do be a resource for elected officials?
Oh my goodness. I hear it all the time. Their constituent services offices love that How Philly Works guide. It explains what the different unions do and how they work and how the negotiations work and how the budget works. Councilmember Young has given out probably over 1,000 copies of it at different events. We keep restocking his office for sure. I know that our resource for Find Your Elected Officials is also really important because people call the office and say they need help or they have an issue, and sometimes it's not the right office, right? It's actually their council person and they're calling their state rep, or they're calling their congressperson and they need the mayor or something like that. So it's really helpful for a constituent services person to be able to type someone's address in and direct them to the right person. But any person in the state can use our website right at 70.org and type in their address, and they get all their elected officials from their committee person all the way up to the governor.
I want to talk about another issue. You want to get rid of the sheriff's office. Tell me why.
We're due. It's not, it's really about addressing decades of systemic dysfunction. It's not about the specific sheriff, though that is an issue. It really goes beyond one individual. Every core function that this office is supposed to provide, it is failing at. So whether that is providing public safety, contributing to public safety, housing stability, and just like the basic trust we should have in our government, it is failing. And we know that there is a better way. Right? We know what the better way is. And just recently, there were public reports of a non-law enforcement staffer mishandling a firearm in the office and shooting themselves. There was a hit and run involving a department SUV. The chaos isn't hypothetical. It is a clear and ongoing risk to public safety and to the city's credibility. So we're not asking for them to just tinker and address these specific issues. We're really asking for them to fix this broken system. And yes, maybe there's an improvement here, or some hiring gets made, and we're going to start staffing security in the courthouse, but at the detriment to providing parole services, right? We can't keep tinkering around the edges. We really do need to address these bigger issues. And even just something as simple as allowing the finance department, moving some of these operations into the mayor's administration that has a ton of transparency and oversight built into the way the departments operate. We don't know how much money they have, right? They're doing these sheriff sales, and the money is sitting in custodial accounts that should be funding things like our schools that desperately need the money. And instead, we're getting a mascot or handing out turkeys at Thanksgiving, which is a perfectly lovely thing to do, but not essential. And we don't know how much is sitting in the account. And it might not be a ton, or it might be a lot. And as a Philadelphian and a taxpayer, we deserve to know that. And we would know that if the finance department was managing those accounts.
So I spoke with Sheriff Bilal, and she says that they are being transparent. Any of these issues that gets reported about, they have addressed it. They make statements on their website.
Then Sheriff Bilal should have answered Council President Johnson's question directly, asking how much was in those custodial accounts during her budget hearing, when that is exactly when she would have been prepared to answer that question if she had an answer. And we were actually waiting for a follow-up. She had an opportunity to give that. I have yet to see an answer to that question.
Check out the full interview I did with Sheriff Bilal back in May. Go check that out in our feed, or we have a link in the show notes. We'll have more with Lauren Cristella after the break.
Gatorade is the #1 proven electrolyte blend designed to hydrate better than water. So you can lose more sweat and raise your game. Gatorade, is it in you?
As a sports fan, I have to confess. Sometimes the game gets kind of boring. That's when I unfold my Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 and use multi-window viewing on its large screen. Boring game? I'm checking out my fantasy baseball league at the same time. Score still 1-0? I'm replying to emails in the other window, scoring points with the boss. Semifinals finally getting exciting? I'm buying tickets to the finals and booking my flights. Can your phone do that?
The new Galaxy Z Fold 7. Get yours at Samsung.com.
Longtime Congressman Dwight Evans, who's in his 70s, he just announced his retirement this summer. The chairman of the Democratic Party in Philly is Bob Brady. He's been around since the 80s. Do you think there needs to be a generational change in politics in Philadelphia?
I do think after I have an enormous amount of respect for both Congressman Evans. I actually helped publish his legislative memoir, and I learned a ton from him. That was one of my other duties as assigned when I worked at Penn, was helping him tell his story of his career. But yeah, I think getting people who are just closer to the issues that the majority of working people today, right, are of a certain age, and they're closer to those issues, and they have kids in the school systems and things like that. It matters. And I think people who are going to have a vested interest in seeing climate change resolved, over the next 30 years also have more skin in the game, I guess. And that would be important too. We are an advocate for term limits, certainly in Philadelphia and city council. Some people say that every election is like a term limit. Voters could impose a term limit if they wanted. But we know that name recognition really matters. Incumbents have a lot of power and often get reelected, especially in low information races, right? That really matters, or low turnout races. So getting younger people involved is certainly important. And I think that the next generation of citizens and residents in Philadelphia have a lot of energy and enthusiasm, and I'd love to see them get more involved and run for office. Yeah.
I want to talk about another system that's ranked choice voting. And we see those conversations come out of New York City. They just had a primary for mayor where voters can choose and order their top picks for the job. Do you think ranked choice voting is something Philly should consider?
I think we should always be looking at different ways to modernize our elections and what's working from other places. Continuous improvement is something we should constantly be on the lookout for. Whether or not this is the best way to do it here is something we should debate. I mean, I think we did a poll in 2023 for the mayor's race. The Committee of 70 did the only public poll, I believe, in that race. And we did one that was straight horse race, top who, if the election was tomorrow, who would be your top pick. But we also did a ranked choice voting model because we were just really interested in seeing what that would look like. And it was a statistical 4-way tie. And it was really interesting because I think when you have different dynamics at play and when it's a wide open field with a lot of candidates and different bases of support, and right, it just makes for a more interesting race. And I think what we just saw in New York was fascinating and consensus building, and got people to work together and compete not just against a candidate and not on a negative platform, but really run positive campaigns where they were building consensus and coalitions, which in the recent history of incredibly negative campaigns, my God, what a breath of fresh air that would bring to our politics if we really found ways to not just be someone's top choice, but run to be their, second or third pick too. That would really find a way to I think, inject a more positive tone into our politics, which seems like it would be welcome at this moment for sure.
So what's missing in Philly? Less than 17% of Philadelphians participated in this past primary election. Why?
Oof, I think we have to listen to what our neighbors are telling us, right? Typically, even in these municipal races that have lower turnout than, say, a presidential, right? We typically see 21, 22% turnout, and we only saw 16, 17%, right? That's telling us something.
It's been telling us something.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Some of the people who'd show up regardless, just because there's an election, that's what you do. They're not showing up. And I think, to me, it's saying their faith in the system is waning. They don't believe it matters, right? They don't think their vote matters. they're seeing it on both sides, maybe, that it doesn't matter if they're going to come out to vote in the Democratic primary. What's the use? In Philadelphia, maybe. Like that's part of the story. And we're losing our percentage of turnout as a percentage of the state's overall turnout. Overall, the state had the highest turnout in its history in 2024.
For the presidential election.
For the presidential election. But Philadelphia did not. There were reasons why people in Philadelphia did not. I mean, maybe it was specifically about the candidates, or, you can ascribe a number of reasons for why maybe specific groups of Philadelphians didn't want to turn out in 2024. But we've got to get to the bottom of it. And I think it is more than just about election time. I mean, I think for Committee of 70, our work is 365, right? It is every day in between elections, explaining how the system works and how people can see the issues in their own community and connect the dots to whether it's to government or to their neighbors or to systems that can help them solve the issues they're facing. There are things your government can do for you if you're out of work. There are things you can do to fix the pothole that is driving you nuts. It might not happen fast or fast enough, but you need to know who to call, right? Over 45% of Philadelphians don't even know the name of their council person. So if you don't even know their name, you've never called them, right? And never asked them to provide the help your community needs or you need, your family needs, and that you are entitled to and that your tax dollars are paying for. So if we can help people understand how that system works and how to make it work for them, I think we will be better positioned to answering that question at election time of why their vote matters, why they should bother to show up.
Is it better to have each seat be contested? Because some of the seats were uncontested.
Heck yeah.
It is what it is, or like...
No, I think, so this is where term limits, right? Some people, they build a war chest and it would be so hard to challenge an incumbent who gets, maxed out contributions, can start fundraising the day after they win election, right? And they fundraise every year. And if you're a new person, it makes it very hard to raise the money you would need to mount a serious challenge. This is where you can talk about public financing of elections, right? You don't rely on that outside funding. We can talk about limiting contributions from developers, right? Treating them like the same way we did with pay-to-play and lawyers years ago, right? We can do that. That's also curbing some of the councilmanic prerogative stuff that's at play in the city. We can talk about that we're really a one-party town. I mean, I know Working Families Party is mounting their challenges, but a multi-party system would inject some life and challenges and balance, right? Absolute power doesn't do well by anybody, I don't think, and kind of limits that competition that does get people out and excited to participate. There's all kinds of things we could probably do.
So we do have some time to prepare. Who's on the ballot this November? What can we expect? November
will be, I think, far more advertised than the primary was, that's for sure, because of these retention races. So there are retention elections. Committee of 70 is going to be doing a lot of education about that because, one, I don't think people know that we even have a Supreme Court here in Pennsylvania, let alone what a retention race is. So for the judges that were elected to the Supreme Court, the Superior Court, and the Commonwealth Court, they're elected to terms and then they're up for retention. So we can elect to retain them for 10 years, like another 10-year term. So for the Supreme Court, there's 3 that are up for retention. I have heard that there's going to be tens of millions of dollars spent on this race. And if we saw a little bit of what it was like in Wisconsin, we know Elon Musk got involved in that Supreme Court race. These are going to be the judges that decide a lot of important cases, and especially like the gerrymandering, the electoral maps in 2031, right? There's a lot of important cases that go before our Pennsylvania Supreme Court. So a lot of reasons why national interests would care about how those races go. So be on the lookout for that. Get informed. Committee of 70, Pennsylvanians for Modern Courts. We're going to be doing a ton of programming. I think even September 8th, we're going to sit down with those 3 judges that are up for retention. So stay tuned. You'll see a lot of other judges also on the ballot here in Philadelphia. Our city controller, she's got a challenger in November. The city controller is the fiscal watchdog. They're responsible for performing regular audits of the city's operating departments, as well as the school district. So we also have the district attorney. I have not heard whether or not Judge Dugan is running as a Republican. I don't know if we're breaking any news or not, but so we'll see if the district attorney, Larry Krasner, who won the Democratic primary, will be running unopposed or not in that race. But I think that those retention races will be the big ticket item in the fall here in Philadelphia. I haven't also seen, I don't think there's any ballot questions either.
Tell me about the Democracy Summit planned for next year for the semi...
Oh, goodness. You're going to go try to say the long name? To 2026.
Oh, yeah. For the 250th.
250th. Yes, we were so excited. The Funding Collaborative here in Philadelphia has supported us. We're going to host a multi-day conference in July of 2026. And it's called A Promise of Democracy, the 250th and the plan ahead, to talk about American democracy and where do we go from here. We've invited a lot of big name speakers from, we'll see if they say yes, but President Obama, President Clinton, President Bush, Governor Shapiro, our senators, McCormick and Fetterman, and a ton of really smart people who think about democracy from a variety of perspectives, whether it's civic education, voting, whether, apathy and engagement and barriers to participation, and the media and our fragmented media landscape and mis and disinformation, all of this. And how do we navigate all of this so that we can keep that republic, right, that Ben Franklin talked about? So we are hosting this right here in Philadelphia, but we're going to broadcast it nationally and record it so that lots of people can get in on the conversation here in the middle of July next year.
What's, before we head out, what is, I don't know, something on your wish list for this year?
My wishes lie in Harrisburg. There are some pretty exciting election reform bills that could get us the things that we've been fighting for ages, the stuff that cleans up the mail-in voting process. So all those people who get their votes tossed out because they forgot to use the secrecy envelope or they misdated their ballot, that would clean that up. True early voting on machines at voting centers 2 weeks before the election. That would be amazing. And so you wouldn't have to go and request a mail-in ballot and fill it out on site and then submit it. You would actually vote on a real voting machine before Election Day, like they do in Delaware and New Jersey and so many other places. We could have that here in Pennsylvania. There are bills that passed the House that we're just waiting for the Senate to move on. Open primaries would be another one. So the Committee of 70 has been fighting for open primaries for a long time. Pennsylvania is a closed primary state. So if you don't register as a Republican or Democrat, you can't vote in the primary. But we have been fighting to change that so that on Election Day, you would be able to pick either Republican or Democrat ballot and cast your vote that way.
Are there bills floating around?
Yes, Jared Solomon, Representative Solomon, has introduced a bill that is hopefully going to get voted on in the fall, and we'll see where that goes.
All right, Lauren, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me.
That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Let us know what you think of this week's politics episode. Also, tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. And don't forget, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Philly neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.